Jobs numbers came out. Job numbers are steady. U.S. added 147,000 jobs in June, surpassing economics expectations of 110,000. So pretty above expectations, which is good. The only thing that I think is really interesting here that concerns me a little bit is the unemployment rate is down, but unemployment doesn't factor in people who just aren't looking for work. And the labor participation rate is down to 62.3%, which is the lowest it's been since 2022. What do we have to do as a country and as a government to not have so many people just choosing, we're just not going to participate? The jobs numbers are good, but I don't like people seeing just sitting on their butts and getting government money, my money, to do nothing.
Well, I think it's complicated because obviously the knee-jerk reaction is to say that, we've got a lot of people in this country that are dependent on government programs, and once you get dependent on, government programs or subsidies or, help of some kind, it's really hard to get off that. I mean, not just hard in terms of it, like spiritually, emotionally. I mean,
Yeah.
people I think lose their self-confidence, they lose their desire and their will to actually take control of their lives. But in addition to that, like that's just one group of people. I do believe that I don't think that's everybody. I think there are a lot of people in this country who have a lot of dreams. I think that they have the will to work, but times are still very, very tough in this country. I mean, if you look just at the housing market today compared to what it was in the 90s or the 80s or the 70s, I mean, you could make a reasonable wage back in those decades and the American dream was still attainable to you. You knew that you could, be a middle class person. You could afford a nice house. You could have one person in the household working, the other person staying home raising children. And it was a really nice life. That's not the reality for people anymore. And,
Yeah.
I mean, I think until we get that fixed somehow, and I'm not going to say and pretend like I have all the answers, but I mean, I think that's a really serious part of this. People are going, why am I going to go out there and pursue something that feels so unattainable to me? And I think it's complex. I think there's a lot of problems that we have to fix before people feel motivated to go out there and chase their dreams the way that they used to.
I like your point of kind of the just the mentality that has to be there, and kind of the devastation mentally and internally as a outside of the economic point. That's why we call this show charting the course of America's cultural comeback, because it's culture. It's not necessarily just economics or just policy. Culture as a whole encompasses kind of all of this. Speaking of this jobs numbers too, and we won't get into too big of the weeds here. I just thought this was a fascinating headline. The same month, this is according to the Unusual Whales, that Microsoft laid off 2,300 workers in the state of Washington. They also applied for 6,300 HB1 visas in that same state. This seems to be exactly the opposite of what we are trying to accomplish as the American people. Try to get jobs here, keep manufacturing, well, as much manufacturing as possible here, but just have jobs in the United States. But Microsoft laying off a bunch of people, and this is just one of their many rounds, at the same time applying for foreign workers to come in and do that same job for cheaper. What do we do to combat this sort of stuff?
Well, it's almost the same, I'd say, answer as before. I mean, first of all, we have to be motivating these our own people, I think, to become well educated, well skilled, and have a desire to succeed in these fields. And I do think that there are certain areas in which we have real differentials in terms of enough skilled people to fill these positions. So there is some legitimacy to that too. But on the other hand, if we're allowing these major corporations to go out and find skilled labor that will work at a fraction of what we're paying American workers, well, then that's a problem too, because obviously we need to be prioritizing pay. But again, this goes back to what we were just talking about.
Yeah.
I mean, if you are a skilled American worker with a dream, but that there's somebody overseas who can come in and do your job for maybe half the pay, and that corporations are going to give preferential treatment to those people, that kind of demoralizes people from wanting to get into the workforce.
Yeah, yeah, and it's complex, but at the same time, there's some of these broad strokes things that kind of seem pretty rudimentary and be able to figure out at the government level, hopefully.